The bitter November wind cut through downtown Seattle like a blade, and Marcus Chen pulled his coat tighter as he hurried toward his favorite coffee shop. He was running late for a client meeting, his mind cluttered with spreadsheets and deadlines, when he nearly stumbled over the man sitting against the brick wall. The homeless man's weathered face was half hidden behind a tattered scarf, his fingers blue with cold as he clutched a cardboard sign that read, "Anything helps. God bless." Marcus had passed this same corner 100 times before, always too busy, always too preoccupied, always convincing himself that his spare change wouldn't make a difference. But something was different that morning. Perhaps it was the way the early light caught the hollow desperation in the man's eyes, or maybe it was the memory of his own father's voice echoing in his mind. "Son, we're all just one catastrophe away from needing help ourselves." Marcus stopped walking. He looked down at the man and made a decision that would shatter everything he thought he knew about loss, redemption, and the invisible threads that connect us all. If you believe in the power of kindness, in second chances, and in the extraordinary stories hidden in ordinary moments, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share more stories that matter. Now, let's continue. Marcus gestured toward the coffee shop and asked the man if he'd like something warm to drink. The man's eyes widened with surprise, then suspicion, as if kindness itself had become a foreign language he no longer understood. But hunger and cold won the silent battle raging behind his eyes, and he nodded slowly. Marcus learned his name was David, and as they stood in line together, Marcus noticed how people stared, how they created invisible barriers with their bodies, stepping aside as if poverty might be contagious. Marcus ordered 2 large coffees and added sandwiches, soup, and a chocolate muffin. When David reached out with trembling hands to accept the steaming cup, his sleeve pulled back, revealing his wrist. That's when Marcus saw it. The tattoo. 3 simple numbers that made his blood run cold and his heart stop beating for what felt like an eternity. 0 to 4-7. Marcus felt the floor tilt beneath him. His vision blurred as 23 years of carefully constructed walls came crashing down in an instant. Those numbers weren't random. They were a code, a secret language shared by only 4 people in the entire world. His father had been an emergency room doctor, and Marcus remembered the day his father came home with that same tattoo on his wrist, explaining through tears of joy that he and 3 other doctors had saved a child's life during an impossible surgery. They had worked for 4 straight hours while the boy's heart stopped 7 times, reviving him again and again, refusing to let death win. 047. 0 deaths, 4 doctors, 7 revivals. They had all gotten matching tattoos to commemorate the miracle, to remember that sometimes love and skill and stubborn determination can cheat fate itself. Marcus's father had shown that tattoo countless times, telling him the story of the 5-year-old boy they brought back from the edge of darkness, the boy whose mother had collapsed in gratitude, whose future they had rescued with their bare hands. But Marcus's father had died 15 years ago, taken by the same cancer he'd spent his career fighting in others. And the other 3 doctors? Marcus had lost track of them over the years, scattered by time and geography across a country too vast for grief to navigate. Yet here stood a man with that same impossible tattoo, that same sacred symbol of hope and resurrection. Marcus's hands shook as he asked David where he got the tattoo, his voice barely a whisper. David's eyes grew distant, traveling back through decades of memories, through layers of pain and loss that had buried the man he used to be. He spoke slowly, as if each word cost him something precious, telling Marcus that he had once been a doctor, that he had once saved lives, that he had once been someone who mattered. He talked about the surgery that changed everything, about the little boy with the weak heart, about the 3 colleagues who became his brothers that night, about the tattoo they all shared as a permanent reminder that miracles weren't myths. Then, David's voice cracked, and the dam holding back years of sorrow finally broke. He told Marcus about his own son, about the car accident that took the boy's life when he was just 16, about how his wife's grief became a canyon between them until she left, about how he tried to drown the pain in alcohol and prescription pills, about how he lost his medical license, his home, his identity, everything that defined him except the ink on his wrist. He had been living on the streets for 7 years, each day a battle against the voices in his head that whispered he deserved this punishment, that he should have been in that car instead of his son, that a man who couldn't save his own child had no right to save anyone else's. The tattoo had become a torture device, a constant reminder of who he used to be, of the life he destroyed with his own hands. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face as recognition bloomed into something larger than coincidence, something that felt like destiny rearranging the universe's furniture. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and showed David a photograph he carried everywhere, a picture he looked at every single day. It was an old photo, creased and faded, showing a young doctor with kind eyes and that same tattoo visible on his wrist, holding a small child in a hospital bed. The doctor in the photo was David, younger and whole and unbroken. And the child? The child was Marcus. Marcus had been that 5-year-old boy with the failing heart, that impossible case, that miracle they'd refused to give up on. David had saved his life before either of them knew their stories would intersect again on a cold November morning in downtown Seattle. The coffee shop disappeared around them as two broken men stood in the wreckage of revelation, understanding finally that some debts can never be repaid because they're written in the language of grace. Marcus told David everything, about the life he'd been given, about the father who told him the surgery story until it became mythology, about the business he'd built and the family he'd raised and the thousands of small joys he'd experienced because David's hands had refused to stop fighting for him when he was too young to fight for himself. David wept then, not the silent tears of shame he'd grown accustomed to, but the loud, gasping sobs of a man remembering he was human, that his life had meant something, that the universe was more mysterious and merciful than his depression had allowed him to believe. So if this story has touched your heart, if you believe in the invisible connections that bind us all, please hit that like button. Share this video with everyone who needs a reminder that our darkest moments don't define us, and leave a comment telling us about a time when kindness changed your life. Your engagement helps more people find these stories. Marcus didn't just buy David another coffee that day, he bought him a future. He helped David get into rehabilitation, supported him through therapy, connected him with programs that helped homeless veterans and professionals rebuild their lives. It wasn't easy and it wasn't quick. Recovery never is. But Marcus showed up every single week, reminding David that he was worth saving, that redemption wasn't a destination but a direction, that the man who had given Marcus life deserved a second chance at his own. 18 months later, David completed his rehabilitation and began volunteering at a clinic that served homeless populations, using his medical knowledge to help others who'd fallen through society's cracks. He couldn't practice medicine officially, but he could offer dignity, wisdom, and hope to people who'd forgotten what those things felt like. Before we end, please take a moment to comment below and tell us, what does second chances mean to you? We read every single comment, and your words create a community of hope. Sometimes the universe arranges moments that seem too perfect to be random, intersections of fate that remind us we're all part of a story larger than ourselves. Marcus had walked past that corner 100 times, but he stopped on the one morning when stopping mattered most. He bought a homeless man coffee and discovered that gratitude isn't a transaction but a circle, that the life you save might one day save you back, and that the tattoos we carry on our skin are nothing compared to the scars and stories written on our hearts. David's tattoo still reads 047, but now it means something new. 0 excuses for giving up. 4 decades of pain that led to purpose. 7 letters, REBIRTH. And every time Marcus sees his own scar, the faded line across his chest where surgeons, including David, once cut him open to fix his broken heart, he remembers that we're all walking miracles, that compassion is the only currency that matters, and that sometimes the man begging for change is actually offering you a chance to change everything.